Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Deep Dive. Now, this is going to be a little different one. This today is about homeschooling and scuba education. Very different program than what we're normally accustomed to seeing. Now, we're going to be interviewing three women today that are pretty interesting. Bethany is the mom, and she does a homeschool program. Julia, who has an award for building a ScienceSea program for homeschooling programs. And Auben, the product of their hard work, and who is now a junior dive master and assistant in the program as well. Now, they put together a program that takes about a month, and they take students that are in the homeschool program all the way from hoping to be scuba divers to rescue course. Fantastic. Now, if you're like me, you look at that and you think, gosh, where was this program when I was in school? I would have happily been a part of that. But unfortunately, these are the first ones to be a part of this. Now, I'm going to leave it pretty much right there. Just remind you that, again, if you like interviews like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button below, as well as make sure to hit that bell for future notifications, because we have some amazing interviews coming up that you'll definitely want to be a part of. And you're not going to want to miss a second of the oceanic goodness that we have coming your way. Again, my name is Benjamin Hadfield. I'm a technical dive instructor with Teach Me to Dive. And I connect divers with dive education, dive agencies, and instructors worldwide for the best education possible. Now, again, make sure you subscribe, and here we go. Ladies, thank you so much for being a part of our program today. Welcome. We have Bethany, Julia, and Auben with us. Good morning, girls. How are you today?
Good morning. We're fantastic.
We're afternoon. I guess it's afternoon.
A little bit afternoon.
Little time zone, and even worse, I grew up in Arizona where they don't have that time zone shift thing twice a year, and so that confuses me as well. So I always everybody's in my time zone at my time.
Confuses me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So this is pretty exciting. You have a homeschooling program devoted to scuba diving, which is extremely unique, extremely rare, and very, very exciting, especially for guys like me. Well, girls and guys and people of all genders and races. We get really excited. Anybody that's into scuba diving, you find that we tend to be a little bit more eclectic and love to talk about it. There's a joke in our house. We have a sign up that says, if you talk about scuba diving and you're not asked, you have to put a quarter in the jar. It is my retirement fund. It's getting very large. So that is our joke. So can you guys tell us a little about yourselves and how you guys came up with the idea of scuba to teach children?
Absolutely. So I'm Julia. I'm an instructor here at Emerald Coast Scuba in Destin, which is sort of the parent company for ScienceSea. It's where we do the program, and I was part of creating the program along with Beth and Auben. We are all from the same neck of the woods in Louisiana, and they can share a little bit more about their backstory. But basically, they crossed paths with me. I connected with them based on the fact that I was a homeschooler myself from second grade all the way through high school graduation. So I was a homeschool student, and Beth and Auben came to me, Auben being homeschooled, wanting to dive, do her thing. And again, I'll let them talk a little bit more about their backstory. But once we connected and realized we had the homeschool aspect in common, we kind of collaborated, and Beth came to me with the idea of, okay, what about if we do something for dive and homeschooling, kind of combine the two and what we could get going there. So I started to brainstorm on that and thinking what sort of program I would like to have had available to me when I was a high schooler trying to get into scuba, surrounded by all these grown men, really not having any friends or family to go with me. So that was sort of the inspiration for the program. So we've been at it for a couple years now. I've been teaching since 2018, and this was sort of my first baby, my project in the dive world. That really means a lot to me. So.
Well, let me follow up on that. You guys come up with this program. You've got the scuba instructor, the master scuba instructor. You've got the homeschoolers as well. You all have this background. So you take this proposal to your shop. How did that go over?
Fantastically. So me being a homeschooler myself and Beth having her expertise, having homeschooled both of her girls, we kind of had that aspect of it taken care of. We had a good base understanding about what it takes to create a curriculum and how to implement that in homeschool curriculums for these families. And then when I approached my boss with it, when we both approached her with the idea, she jumped on it because she knew that we were both experts. I was the scuba expert, Beth the homeschool expert. So Anna Schmitz, she's the course director on staff who owns the dive shop, and she's been my mentor my entire dive career. And she, like I said, kind of entrusted us with that baby, as I like to call it, ScienceSea. It's our baby, and Anna sort of trusted us with that and let us run with it. And she was there to support us every step of the way, as far as the technical sides of things and the business side of things. She was there to support us through that, but she was all for it, because we explained to her what an untapped market the homeschool community is, especially locally. Being in Florida, living on the Emerald Coast, so many homeschool families who don't even know that scuba is really an activity on the Emerald Coast, which is kind of bizarre. Most people don't realize that there is as much diving as there is here. So sort of opening up that new avenue for kids to come and learn with us. The shop was all for it, and it's been a wild success. So
Anna, I think, was really excited too, because it gives, I'm sure, being an instructor, especially in a coastal town like we're in, there's a lot of get them in, get them wet, get them out, a lot of people just coming through fast. And this class gives you the chance to really dig in deeper. And so Anna was like, this is the class that I would love to teach every single person that comes through here. I'd love to take the time with every single person that we're going to be able to give to these kids. So it's really kind of not only a dream thing for the kids to go through, but for instructors who really love what they do, because it really allows you to pour into the kids.
That's exciting. So now we also have Auben, who is going through the course from the student slash prospective future dive professional role. Auben, how has it been for you coming up through this?
Oh my gosh, it's been wonderful. I didn't have the opportunity to do ScienceSea when I was going through and getting certified, but my sister got that opportunity, and I would have loved something like this. Having other kids my age, someone to connect with, things to do, creating that tight-knit group, because all the students still get together all the time and hang out. I never got that, and having all of these dive
community
buddies and everything. It's been wonderful, and not to mention it's made me more confident in myself and my skills. And I've noticed in watching all these kids that they also, you see them come in kind of shy and they fall in love with it, and they become confident and leaders and love what they do and take charge. And it's just really cool to see.
Yeah, and it's really cool to be a part of too. And she's directly impacting the lives of these kids. That's the coolest part for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
I can't help but be jealous, because I grew up in Arizona where there is no water. And so if somebody told me that instead of going to school today, I could go and play in the water or become a scuba diver, I would have just been, you don't have to ask me twice. Let's go. I am totally down. So every one of your friends, Auben, has to be insanely jealous that is not a part of this program.
Most of her friends
All my friends, I made these friends through the program.
Even better. I'm sure you made a few extra friends along the way of, you're a scuba diver, I want to do that too.
Yeah.
Because I think we all get that. People see what we do and they're like, wait a minute, they're diving? You're going, yeah, how do I get involved? And so a lot of the people that I know, my neighbors, have become involved. I've certified neighbors and friends, and I've certified clients as well, that through my other life as in business, and they've been like, whoa. So it's definitely, it's a very magnetic industry, that is for sure. Now, Julia, we've got an interesting thing here, that it's a very unusual thing in the dive industry to have a female owner and female instructors. Mm-hmm. It's but you've been able to kind of get something going with your students, and you've achieved gender parity, which is unheard of. I don't have anything close to that, and I work hard at it with my wife and I to get there, but we're not even close. How did you get there?
Well, I mean, a lot of it goes back to Anna. Honestly, the owner of the shop, she's just an incredible woman, an incredible businesswoman, a business owner. She knows how to run a business. She's an incredible teacher, instructor, mentor. She's lived a lot of life, and she shares what she loves and what she knows with the people around her. And I was lucky enough to make that connection at an early age, and she sort of brought me up to where I am now. And when I first got here I started diving with this shop in 2015, and then I got my pro ratings in 2018. I became a dive master early in the year, and then an instructor later that year. And when I was first doing all of my pro training, I was doing it with all these 30, 40-year-old grown men, and it's been really neat over the last few years, especially to see all these other females coming in, these younger females coming in and getting trained all the way from open water to rescue and to dive master and instructor. So it's definitely been a change in the tide, I think, in the industry as a whole and at this shop in particular. And I've seen the change at this dive shop because I was here in 2015 when it was mostly male run, yeah, all the instructors, all the divers, they were all these grown men. So and I think it's where my passion really has been since I've started professionally diving is with the younger kids, the girls, the females, the 10-year-old little girls that come in that want to be a mermaid. And then I'm convinced them, okay, but what if you could breathe underwater, And then I put a regulator in their mouth, they go down and they come up just like Auben was saying, they come up with like these stars in their eyes, ready to do more. So just being able to interact with those younger females and them seeing an actual female who's doing it professionally gives them a lot of confidence and a lot of motivation to sort of pursue the same thing. So the role that Anna played in my life, I find that I'm now playing in these other people's lives, which is really neat.
Yeah, definitely getting the kids in. I think getting in when they're kids that's a big thing when they're young. And one of the things like at this dive shop that they do that's great is we've got the pool and they do swim lessons out of the pool. And while swim lessons are going on, there's also people diving and they're seeing a woman teaching the diving. So these little girls from the time they're learning how to swim are seeing people scuba diving, seeing women scuba diving. And so it's getting that idea in their head when they're young. And before they can even think that that's not just for me, that's for guys. It's, I can do that too from the time that they're teeny.
Yeah. And it was intimidating being a 15, 16-year-old girl in a very male dominated industry, having to sort of put on my big boy boots and join in with the guys and be one of the guys and work my way up.
Excuse me though, wouldn't it be big girl boots?
Well, at the time I thought I had to fill the male shoes, but I've sort of come into my own as far as being a female professional in the industry. So
yeah, well, even Auben just last year doing her rescue, it was her and 4 other veterans. And here's little teeny, 15-year-old Auben at the time lugging up, this 250-pound dude up onto shore, all on her own. So it's a lot for girls. They might be intimidated, but we get the kids all the way through rescue. So when they're doing rescue, they're able to do it and they know more than the boys. And it's really cool.
Oh, absolutely. But I will honestly tell you, I never try and fill my wife's shoes. They just don't feel like, she does a much better job of wearing them than me and is far more patient. And if you look at our reviews, you'll see very clearly that there are certainly things that she excels in that I do not. And she is just amazing. So good on you guys. I mean, it's really neat to start seeing that gender parity move in that direction. I always believe firmly that as kids, we don't know that there's supposed to be a difference. We're taught that. And so that the more you can teach your children, I believe firmly that there's not a difference, that you can do everything that you set your mind to do, the easier life becomes. And if you don't know that there's a problem, if you don't know that you're supposed to have a hard time on the hill, you have a less hard time doing things. So good for you. Now, Auben, you've kind of been through this process, and you're starting to notice a little bit that there's a gender disparity a little bit in the diving industry, but it's starting to come up. How does that feel that it's at this point for you now that it's started to equal out to you have some girlfriends to hang out with?
Oh my gosh, it's so nice. And especially being here and seeing more people come in to dive and more of them being girls, because we lived in Houma, Louisiana, so there was nowhere to dive and our dive shop was really teeny, and with the exception of one other girl, it was all guys for all of my classes, and the entire community there was all adult men. So having all of these girls my age and being able and have the privilege to teach them and bring them into something that I love and that I enjoy and can make friendships with them, it's really wonderful.
That's awesome. Now, Bethany, what benefits have you seen in your own children and other children who've taken the ScienceSea?
That's a big one.
Oh my gosh. There's 12 million things I could say. First with Auben in particular is the confidence that it gives her. I mean, when she first started, it was just the whole look, I can keep myself alive, at 60 feet, and that's awesome. And then as time went on, it became, I can conquer my fears and my anxiety, and I can have control over this, and I can grow here. And that has been so important for her. And then I look at my other daughter who had less than no interest in diving, because like Auben was saying, with our original dive shop when we lived in Louisiana, Craig, amazing. He did an amazing job teaching her, but he was an old school by the book guy. Like Auben didn't get to use a dive computer at first. She memorized the tables and she used the gauges, and like he was like, you don't get a computer. And he was very old school, and that scared the bejesus out of Evelyn. So she had no interest. But then she had to be dragged along with mom while we were getting ScienceSea up and running, and she watched the first class go through. She was like, oh, okay, I can do this. So she got doing it, and she was like, all right, it's cool, but it's not my favorite thing. And then just a few weeks ago, she went on a dive, and she had this moment. She's my artist, and she had this moment that just sang to her soul. And she came home and she just started doing her art and made this beautiful art piece. And so now she's really excited to dive because of what it does for her and opening up her world and seeing things that give her inspiration. So it does different things for different kids, but for all the kids, I mean, even watching the kids go through ScienceSea, like Auben was saying before, you start the class and we have these timid little teeny kids start the class that barely speak. And by the end, they're whole different children. I mean, completely different kids. And then when you talk about teenage years, the teenage years are rough. Like for them to have something that gives them courage and strength and, control is such a big deal. And it gives them something that's theirs too. It's really cool for a lot of these kids to be able to like, I'm a scuba diver. Not a lot of kids their age can say that. So it really helps shape these kids. And it's a really cool thing to see.
That's amazing. So the other thing I've noticed in teaching divers and open water scuba all the way through, I teach dive masters, and then I teach tech obviously as well. And the farther along we get, the deeper the problems become, and the deeper the critical thinking becomes. What have you noticed with the children you work with in Auburn? How does their critical thinking come along on this?
Well, I mean, we always teach them stop, think, act, and that's something we kind of drill into them initially. The first day of their open water course, that's something they're taught, and they're kind of not warned, but they're given a heads up, like, hey, you guys, you're gonna go from first learning how to take care of yourself to then transitioning into taking care of other people. So you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to be aware of your environment. You have to be aware of what's going on around you with yourself and the people around you, and giving them that sort of direction on giving them particular things to think about and have in the back of their head as they're going through these things, and giving them scenarios that they have to work through, and kind of letting them work out their own issues to a point, not being so on top of them about every little thing, and letting them as a buddying them up and during class and say, you're dive buddies with this person, and giving one dive buddy an issue to pretend to have under the water and see if the other dive buddy picks up on that, and practicing those scenarios to make them more aware of what's going on around them has helped a lot, because they're with us for so long, because they're with us for that whole month. By the end of that month, they are so aware of what's going on around them. They have their head on a swivel, almost like any dive master or instructor when you're in the water with students, right? You have your head on the swivel and you're constantly looking or watching for anything that could go wrong. And the kids that come out of this program go from having no idea what this hose is here versus this hose here, and oops, I accidentally pressed the wrong button, to having their head on the swivel and being ready to jump on it and act if anybody in the water has an issue. And I've seen a lot of these kids, I kind of take a hands-off approach, in the sense that once I know that they have the skills they need to have to stay safe, I sit back and I observe. And what I've observed by the end of the month that these kids go through the program is them helping each other, and them helping other divers who are just getting started in the water, which is really, really cool. So they kind of take over that leadership role.
Auben, same question for you. How do you think your critical thinking skills have changed since you began the process with ScienceSea?
Oh my gosh, by a lot. Even when I got my scuba certification, I wasn't in the water very often, and when I was very focused on myself and am I doing everything right? I'm supposed to even be down here? English, but it was very different, that shift, and then being here and then going through the rescue course and seeing how comfortable everyone is and getting more comfortable in myself and being aware of stuff outside of me. I found that helped me be more aware of myself by paying attention to others.
Yeah.
So it was very confidence building. I was able to go from the mindset of, okay, constantly doing this mental checklist to, I know I have everything, I can keep it on the back burner and able to do more with myself.
Yeah, and I think it really all goes back to the confidence. Even the critical thinking goes back to the confidence, because once you're confident and you know what's going on here, then you're comfortable enough to start thinking about what's going on around you and solving any problems that do come up.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And I love that. So the other part of diving that most people don't realize is there's a fair amount of math. It's not, and it's not simple math. I mean, there's a fair amount of algebra,
Yeah.
truthfully, maybe a little bit of geometry, spatial awareness as well. But so how do you feel like that has, Auben, I want to just stress this straight out to you. How do you think that's affected you for other areas of problem solving in math, for example?
Oh, wow. That's probably not the best question to ask. I can do scuba math all day long about it, but any other algebra I am incapable of. But I did nitrox with my old school dive instructor for 8th grade, and so I didn't have all the little cheat tables and putting it in on the computer because I had a timing device, I had a gauge for my air, I had a gauge for my depth, so I was really involved in it. I know all of the equations. I know how to do it. I can't do mental math really well, but if I have a piece of paper, I'll be able to write it out. And my instructor drilled that into me very, very well. And I'm seeing with all these kids as they're learning all of the math and science behind this, I think they're able to take math that they learn, because when you learn math in school, you're like, when am I ever going to use this? But with diving, the way ScienceSea takes it is they teach them the math and they immediately apply it hands-on. So they know this is useful. They are using this. That's going to keep them alive. It's a very different mindset, and it's very, very useful. I find I'm no longer hating math as much.
It's true. That was actually when she got to 8th grade, she wanted to take the nitrox class, and she was doing NAUI with that instructor. And she had a really intense, I mean, it was an intense class. And I told her, I'm like, look, baby girl, when I opened up the book to look and see what it was, I said, you're going to have to do this math, and you hate math. Do you think you can do it? And it really forced her to do the math and to work through it. And it's not just me that has seen that with my child. It's a bunch of the moms have come to me and be like, I was, pulling teeth to get my kid to do math or science, and I don't have to, because now at least for this type of math, at least for this type of science, my child is itching to do it. They want to do it. They're excited to do it. They're asking me when they can take their next classes. So it's really helpful in that sense. And then it's easy to then turn around and be like, dude, this, you did it here. This is not any different. This is an equation just like this was, and you know how to do this. And it helps them have confidence in their skills and their ability, and they're able to do that math elsewhere because they go, okay, I did it over here. I know I can do it here.
Absolutely. That first aha moment when you discover, wait a minute, math is useful.
Exactly.
I remember the first time I discovered that geometry actually had a place in its world. And I was in high school. I was a sophomore working construction to make some extra money. And they had a problem. And they wanted to build a shelf that was going to be 4 foot up, 2 feet out. And he wanted to build 2 45-degree angles and a 90. And I'm like, no, wait. I know this one. I did the formula and figured out what the other 2 angles should be for the cuts. And they're like, wow, where'd you learn that? I'm like, geometry.
Darn it.
Would have thought, what the heck? So that first point where you realize, wait a minute, math is useful, because I have some high schoolers that come through and into my classes, and late middle schoolers as well, and we start talking about those maths, and they're like, "Wow, this is so cool! I get this," and I'm like, "Aren't you doing algebra in school?" And I had one of them who says, "Yeah, I failed algebra," and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yep.
"You just did it, dude."
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So there's a lot of aspects. So we've talked about the fact that there's fantastic science building. There's spatial awareness. They're taking diving and putting kids into it. We're learning equality. We're learning math. I mean, who'd have thunk math was useful, right? Until all of a sudden you get into scuba and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that math keeps me alive. But there's a whole bigger piece of this. And I think one of the concerns that people like me who aren't super familiar with homeschooling projects, and I've only dealt with a few kids that have homeschooled, that we worry about the social and emotional growth that we see, that they're just not. I put my kids in public school and into private schools because I wanted them to have to social interact with other kids. But this kind of takes that away and takes one of the edges off that as well. So can you explain that social emotional growth that occurs in these children through this program?
Yeah, so in a sense, I don't like to use the word miserable, but misery loves company. In a sense, so a lot of our classes take place during the off season in winter, and we do a lot of our dives out at the freshwater springs, which are very cold. And these kids do get cold; they have a blast, but they do get cold, and it's really really neat to see them all kind of bond over how miserable they actually are on any given day. But no, really, forget the M word, but really just working through the problems that they're having to solve together with peers and learning to love something together and working through the tough parts together really builds those connections and builds those bonds. And we've seen these kids will have anywhere from 4 kids to the biggest class we taught last year was 12 kids in the class for the whole month. So those groups, the core group that they go through the program together with, they end up organizing dives after the fact. They end up going on field trips together. They end up going to movie nights, skate nights, doing things outside of diving even. So it all rolls over into their daily life. And having gone through the experience, because it's not easy, it's difficult, and they have to work, they have to learn, they have to get through things that they don't always want to do. Like, I don't want to get in the water, it's a little cold. Okay, but we're going to do it together, we can do this. And they hype each other up for it. And it creates some really strong bonds and some really strong friendships even coming out of the program. And the kids that they're surrounded by are all different. We have the really structured, conservative, typical homeschool families, and then we have like the unschooling, very free, real world education families, and then we'll have 17-year-olds and 12-year-olds in the same class. So they're learning to interact with different walks of life. They're learning to interact with different ages, different genders. They're learning to interact with people who are different than them, and then they also bond with all of these people that they never would have met outside of scuba. So it brings together all these people and builds all these friendships that wouldn't happen otherwise.
Yeah, and from a homeschool perspective, one of the things that's really cool is, like she was saying, in the homeschooling community, there tends to be a bifurcation. There tends to be the religious homeschoolers and then the secular homeschoolers, and nary the two shall meet. Like, that very much
Sure.
tends to be how it goes. They have separate proms. They have all separate things. But this
Very segregated.
class brings all the people together because there is no agenda. There's nothing that anybody finds objectionable, nothing. Like, it's so across the board, and it brings all of these kids together. So it's really cool from that perspective. I mean, even outside of that, even for schooling, a lot of kids will go to a Christian private school or a Catholic private school or whatever. And this really brings the whole group of people together from all different walks of life.
Yeah, and they're even in addition to peers and kids their own age, they're also getting to interact with different professionals in the industry, guest speakers that we bring in from Florida Fish and Wildlife, biologists from the college, some technical divers. I mean, we bring in all sorts of different professionals in the industry as well, so they also get to build those relationships not only with peers but also with mentors and career guidance counselors, basically, to guide them on their career path. So they build all sorts of connections.
And from all over the country.
Yep.
We have people come in from Tennessee, from Louisiana, from further down in Florida. We've got somebody coming in from Seattle, somebody coming in from New York. Like, we have people from all over the country come. So it really is a cross section of the public.
That is amazing. One of the things I appreciated, I spent quite a bit of time in the Marine Corps, and we didn't have color. We didn't really have race or anything like that. We had colors of green, and it didn't matter if you were older or younger. You were all just a color of green. There was no boys, girls, but that kind of seems like what you're doing is here. You just have to figure out what you want a distinction. So we have the blue homeschoolers and the red homeschoolers, and we're all fine. We're all colors in the box of crayons, right?
Yeah.
We're all together. So that's wonderful. It's bringing that community together. So the interesting part is how is outside homeschooling community, which is, for my opinion, from what I've seen from my vantage point, and it certainly could be wrong, but it seems like people who are into homeschooling have a fairly general, strong opinion about life, about things, about everything and that's why they've gotten the homeschooling method, is because they have a very strong opinion on how they want their children raised and how they want their children educated. How has that community embraced this?
They've embraced it like crazy. They're so, first of all,
Because it's new,
it's
different,
new,
it's exciting.
Yep. And we've had homeschooling has more than doubled since the pandemic started. A lot of people brought their kids home during the pandemic. Obviously, they started homeschooling, and at that point, they were like, why would I send them back? This is great. They're seeing all the benefits. They're getting to spend all this time. They're getting to see the different ways. A lot of people, little known fact, unless you're in the homeschool community, only 30% of people who graduate public school are considered at grade level and passing according to the government standards. And so a lot of people were seeing their children struggle, and they pulled them from school, and their child's not struggling anymore and is actually blossoming and doing really well. So a lot of people have joined the homeschooling community, and now we're to a point where we're able to have classes like this because there are so many people, and they're thrilled to have more options, to have more things, and anything like this that's a off the beaten path that they can be like, yeah, my kid might not be in a classroom, but they're, scuba diving a shipwreck right now. Tell me they're missing out, please. So it's definitely great. And then you add to it another little known thing I didn't know until we actually started doing this class. People don't realize you get college credit for, scuba certifications. So you throw that out there, and any homeschool parent worth their salt's like, sold, done, yes, please sign me up.
Excellent. Well, that's awesome. And absolutely, we teach classes regularly to the local community college and local college as well. So we do a stress and rescue program for them. We do a React Right program, which is your CPR, first aid, AED, and whatnot, as well as the just basic open water clarity. In fact, truth be told, I was in college myself on a 28 credit load, and I took a scuba class in college because I thought, nothing sounds better than 2 hours of class that I get credit for towards my degree underwater. That sounds pretty wonderful to me. Let's go for that. I took it as a gimme. And unfortunately, I didn't do anything with it for 30 years until it was 7 years ago that I finally got back in and started moving up the chain again and started that. But I get it. That's amazing. So how does a local community or local homeschooling area go about building a program like this for themselves?
Facebook.
Honestly, social media has been the biggest thing for us, is getting into groups and advertising in groups on Facebook and being like, hey, we're doing this thing. And people get really excited about it, and they're willing to drive in so we're in Destin, and we have people drive in from Panama City Beach, which is an hour and a half one way, or Pensacola, which is an hour and a half the other way, because they're really excited about it. But social media is definitely the big thing. And I mean, for anything, whether it be scuba or any other thing, going to a business and being like, hey, I've got an entire group that you've untapped just yet that are willing to give you money during your slow time, which is usually a school day, right? Like a lot of businesses that would do anything with a kid, the school day is a slow time for them. Telling them, hey, I've got a way for you to make money during your slow time. Like that's a pretty easy sell.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And kids who've gone
Now,
through
have
it
you?
had the experience and then go and share with their friends and convince their friends to do the same thing. We've had a lot of students do that, just people they have already been friends with who didn't go through the program at first, who they wanted them to be their dive buddies. So they're like, hey, buddy, you should go through this program too. It was a ton of fun. And then those parents will send their kids to us as well. So word of mouth combined with the social media definitely got us off the ground.
Absolutely. Grassroots marketing is fantastic, and it's certainly a very powerful medium as well. So, have you put together an official curriculum for this program that you can share with others?
No, because so with it's a Patty thing, and it's an Emerald Coast Scuba thing. So our curriculum is made up of Patty courses, a sequence of Patty courses that we're supplementing their online training, their e-learning with classroom training and classwork and classroom learning. So it's kind of a combination of online and practical learning in the classroom, but it's all based off of the already designed Patty courses that we teach through. So we're kind of tied to that at the moment as far as the program goes. And Emerald Coast Scuba, it's an Emerald Coast Scuba run program at the moment.
Gotcha. So, the Patty program is the Young Explorer. So, is that the program that you're currently following? Is the Young Explorers
No, so
program?
ScienceSea is not a Patty program. The ScienceSea
Oh, okay.
curriculum is made up of Patty courses. So we teach the Patty Open Water Diver as the first certification for the program. The next certification is the Patty Adventure / Advanced, depending on which month they come and dive with us. And then we move into the Patty Rescue, and we do the Patty EFR CPR certification and a bunch of Patty specialties as well. So our curriculum is made up of Patty specific courses.
Gotcha. Now, is Science and See something that you've copyrighted and trademarked for yourself, or is that something that's open that if there's another shop in New York that's outside of your area that want to do something like this, are they able to come in and use the Science See ideas, or do they need to create their own?
ScienceSea is actually trademarked by Emerald Coast Scuba, so it does belong to us.
Gotcha. Not a worry. Other people would like, I'm sure, like to be a part of something like that. So
Absolutely, and
something to
we're
consider
we're,
down the
we're
line.
trying to find a way to sort of make it more accessible to people. And if you have a dive shop that maybe is Maui, for example, a way to sort of for them to teach a similar program based on the certification agency that they go through, as opposed to Patty, and creating more of a broad curriculum base rather than this Patty course, this Patty course, this Patty course, something a little more broad to make it accessible to others down the line is definitely something that we're working on. But as of right now, ScienceSea, the name is trademarked by Emerald Coast Scuba, and our curriculum is made up of Patty courses.
Excellent. So, what are the benefits you've seen for the shop specifically on this?
Oh gosh, continuing education, gear purchases, people booking dive boats. The other day, or yesterday actually, we had a boat that was full. We didn't have any more spots on it, and every single student on there, in addition to the class that we have going on right now, we actually have a ScienceSea class that we're in the middle of. It's our first 2-week version of ScienceSea, so instead of 4 weeks, it's 2 weeks. We finished our first week last Friday, and our second week started yesterday. And so I had my few students for this ScienceSea program on the boat, and then everybody else on that boat was a paying customer from previous ScienceSea courses. So all students who have gone through the program, who wanted to get together with their friends, who wanted to go on a dive, they signed up, they paid to go dive, and a lot of them leave here with new gear. We even had Sage. She came in, one of our students from the very first year. she keeps coming back, and she saves her money, and she works her butt off, and she comes back and begs her mom to drive her to Destin so that she can buy herself a BC, buy herself a regulator, buy herself a new mask. That was her big purchase yesterday. She bought herself a Paragon, a Tusa Paragon, and was just thrilled about it. So, and then we have kids who, as part of their adventure diver or advanced open water diver course over the ScienceSea program, will come back and say, hey, I really loved the photography adventure dive as part of my advance. Can I come back and take that certification course? So I'll build entire certification courses around ScienceSea and open it up to graduates, to alumni, to students who have gone through the program, and say, hey, you guys, here's a chance to reconnect with the friends you went through the program with and learn something new about diving that you maybe didn't dive as deep into as you wanted to during the ScienceSea program, but here's your chance to work on this particular specialty. So yeah, it's a constant flow. And we've even had kids who have gone through the program, seen what Auben does with us, being the teacher's assistant, working on her junior dive master certification and wanting to do what she does. So we created a whole new program where it's a junior leadership program where kids who have gone through ScienceSea can come back and help incoming students and be their support, be their guidance, be their leaders. So
Yeah, we've got 2 more
So-
boats going out in the next week that are full with ScienceSea students, and then during the spring. So before the boats were really running, we ran a shore dive, and we literally emptied the shop out of their rental
we
gear.
had no more rental gear.
So, do stuff like that all the time. So, I mean, and then we've got a bunch of the moms wanted to get certified.
Yep. We have
So,
a mom's class coming up in October. I'm getting a class together for the parents who are all jealous of the photos and videos and stories their kids keep coming back with, and they want to join in the fun. So I'm building a class just for them. So it's literally endless possibilities, endless stream
Nice.
of business. So it's been wonderful all the way around.
So just to be clear, so it sounds like in some cases they're getting the full open water certification, but for a lot of the times the specialties, you're creating a junior version or a maybe a little bit stripped down version of that class for this specifically for this.
Well, it would be any of the normal classes we teach at the dive shop. So we teach PADI specialty courses. We teach we're a career development center. We're a 5-star career development center. So we teach all the way through instructor ratings, all the way through staff instructor. We teach everybody from the very bottom to the very top. So I'm sorry, what was your question? I lost my train of thought.
Are you actually teaching the full certification? In a lot of cases,
So what we'll do is those courses that we do teach, we'll schedule it out just like we do on our normal calendar. But instead of opening up to the public, it'll be a private sign up available only for ScienceSea students who have gone through the program with us. So we're filling a class with ScienceSea alumni as opposed to opening it up to public sign up as we usually would.
So they're getting the full specialty then.
Yep.
So they're getting photographer underwater, or underwater photography, or buoyancy, or rescue, or EAN, whatever their age appropriate is able to get.
Exactly.
So, okay, perfect. Well, can you talk to me a little about the monetary aspect of this? I mean, as a homeschool parent, what does that look like for me? I want to put my kids in a ScienceSea program. Am I paying by the block? How does that work for me? Because that's always a concern of how much does this add to my pocketbook, right?
Yeah, so we actually have we put on a Discover Scuba dive before the start of we call it sessions. So we have 2 or 3 sessions every year in the off season, and before each of those sessions, we'll do a Discover Scuba dive, and we'll host a day here at the dive shop. We have an on-site swimming pool where we do all of our confined water training, and we'll invite any interested homeschoolers to come try out diving. Pay $250. You get to go on a dive in the pool and decide if you love it. If at the end of the dive you do love it and you decide to sign up, that $250 is applied to the tuition cost. And then we have payment plans. We can work with families. We usually will have families put in a deposit at the beginning of the year, and they'll make payments up until the start of the program, which again is in off season, usually November, December time, and everything is paid in full by then. So we definitely have some flexibility there. And then the tuition cost itself, It can be kind of a tough pill for parents to swallow right off the bat until you really break everything down and they see what their kids are actually getting out of it. Because if you were to come in off the street as a paying customer and pay for everything that these kids are getting out of this month with us, you would be spending well over $3,250, $3,500, somewhere around there. So we basically knock almost $1,000 off of the total cost if you were to piece everything together. So they're getting a really good deal, and that's one of the things that me and Anna, the owner of the shop, had talked about extensively before creating the program. We wanted to make it as accessible as possible to families because of how beneficial it is internally, like for these kids for their hearts, their minds, their souls. It's a very healthy thing, and it brings us business in the future, right? We have these kids coming back and buying gear, purchasing more classes, continuing education, specialties, things like that. So making it as accessible as possible and making it as affordable as possible for families is really important to us.
That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Can you go over what's kind of is in each block of your education? How long are they, and what's included in each block?
So we have our open water diver course, which is 4 days. When they come for the month-long program, we do a 5-day version. So we kind of expand on everything that we would normally teach in our open water, in our advanced. We kind of expand on it a little bit for the kids who are in the program so that they get that added math, that added science, and they're supplementing it all with classroom learning, which most of our classes are normally taught through just e-learning. So they're getting both. But they'll be with us 3 days a week for 4 weeks in a row. So they kind of roll right from one class into the next. So the first 5 days of the program are completing their open water. And as soon as they have that done, they roll right into advanced for the next 2 days. And then after that, they roll right into rescue for an additional 2 days. And then the days in between are filled with classroom reviews, classroom recaps, quizzes, and then going out into the pool or open water and just solidifying what they learned. And then also bringing in those guest speakers. We do some beach cleanups. We do underwater cleanups. We do a lot of environmental education as well. So they're getting to connect with the environment. And for a lot of these kids, being locals, connecting with their own backyard and falling in love with it so that they feel a need to protect it is another thing that they're doing on the in-between days. But
Sure. No, that's wonderful. It definitely, it's always the interesting part to see kind of both pieces of it. I mean, we talk about, I remember my kids getting excited at different things. And if I had known how much cheer was going to cost me, and my pocketbook, I don't know that I would have said yes to that first cheer for
Right.
but
that's what a lot of these parents say. They're like, you couldn't have picked a less expensive hobby.
But you know what, though? I mean, really, I talk to my friends whose kids are in travel ball or whatever, and they are not paying any less than I am. Let's be real about that.
no, that's for sure. Where it gets to be more is when you start adding that gear. And
Yeah.
we have a basement dedicated to scuba stuff, and I walk through there and realize that that's my retirement. So,
But you know, it's been
I
great
could
for a
have
lot of
retired-
these
I could retire by
parents
now.
because they're like, "Oh, cool! You want that BC? Guess you're going to do all these chores, or you're going to get a job."
Yeah.
So it really allows the parents the opportunity to teach their kids, work, save,
Sure,
you
fiscal
know,
responsibility.
put that money into something that you are investing in.
No, that's wonderful, and that's absolutely how it is, and how I raise my children is if you want it, you got to figure out how you're going to earn it. Absolutely. So I agree completely, and it certainly it teaches them a little bit about money as well, because as we know, scuba gear ain't cheap. I wish it was. Well, I guess I don't wish it was, because then it wouldn't be good, right? So can you tell me about this recognition that you received, Julia? You got an award from DEMA about how you did ScienceSea and everything that was involved with that, because it's so amazing. Tell me about that award and how it made you feel.
I did. So it was actually kind of a surprise. I didn't really know that I had even been submitted for it. It was through Scott Cole. He's the other course director that we have on staff besides Anna, the owner. So the two of them kind of collaborated on that. They heard that the award nominations were happening for the Wavemaker Award, which is an annual award that I believe DEMA started giving out a few years ago. It hasn't been going on on too long. I think they've been doing it for about 3 or 4 years now. But they put my name in for that. So it was kind of a surprise to me. They announced it during a staff meeting that I had been accepted as one of the finalists for that award. And then after I was accepted as a finalist, when DEMA happened last year, during one of their events at DEMA, they projected all of the submission videos and the information for all of the contestants who made it to the top 3, the final contestants, and announced the winner. And it was me. It was very unexpected, and it was special. It was probably the hallmark of my career up to this point. I had my little board on display in the classroom and everything. So it was definitely a special thing. And it's kind of just gave me it reassured me that what I'm doing is worth it, and that it's important, and that other people see the importance of it as well. So it was really cool.
I get it. The accolades are nice, and it's nice to have something on your shelf. I've got a few on my shelf.
Right.
I treasure them. They're mine. I earned them.
Yeah.
You know, and they're usually dumb things. I certainly have my awards, ribbons for the Marine Corps, but it's the ones like that, the trophy cup, the medal for doing nice things that I treasure the most and keep in my special case behind me, right next to the pictures of my children. So I get it completely. So Bethany, I guess this really comes out to you, is what advice would you give to parents who are considering homeschooling their children, but hesitate to do this alone when it comes to something like ScienceSea?
You're not alone. The homeschool community is huge and growing. And the more it grows, the more programs like this will be accessible. And it doesn't take much to plug into a homeschool community. Go online, go on to Facebook, even if you hate Facebook, which I totally understand if you do. Get on there just to get into the groups. And you will find that there's a massive community around you, and there's all kinds of programs always available. I mean, we're really unique, but we're not the most unique thing. I saw last week, I'm still involved with a bunch of stuff in Louisiana. Last week, I saw that there was a business that was doing taxidermy, and they were offering a day-long class to homeschoolers where they could taxidermy a rat. Like, there's so much stuff out there that you can try and do. Because, I mean, you don't know what your kid's thing is going to be until they do it, right? So you throw spaghetti at the wall and you see what sticks. And like with ScienceSea, we have parents that come up to me and are just like, thank you so much. I haven't been able to get my kid excited about anything, but now they know what they want to do. They know a direction they want to go with their lives. I know how I'm going to further their education now, what road we're going to walk down. So, I would encourage parents that you're not alone, and, give your child the opportunity to discover different paths that they could walk down in life. You never know what they're going to love until they find it.
That's amazing. By the way, just a public service announcement to all the children listening out there: do not throw spaghetti against the wall. Just saying.
It's really funny. My mom taught me that trick one time when I was like 9, and we had like these super tall ceilings. We had a 2-story house, and the top ceiling of the living was even with the top of the stairs, and I decided to try it on the highest point in the entire ceiling that I could reach, and that piece of spaghetti is still on my wall of the ceiling in my parents' house. It's a true story. It's still there.
Oh my heck. So public service announcement. Your parents won't let you go scuba diving. You will be banned from the ocean for at least a week. I like to throw those public service announcements out there for all those parents and children listening, just in case. So I guess the final question really comes down to, what are your future plans with ScienceSea?
Oh, wow. Expanding, just growing the community that we're building. And that's really, I mean, we keep saying it, but it's true. That's been the coolest thing, the most important thing that everybody's gotten out of it is the community that we're building. And to see all of these kids come back and to literally fill a boat, or 2 boats, or even 3 boats. We have 3 boats going out well, one of them was yesterday, but over this whole week, we've had 3 boats going out. That's majority ScienceSea alumni going out and diving together and being part of that community. And it has been absolutely incredible. We have a Facebook page that has grown. It started out with just me and Beth were the only 2 members in it. And then once we did the first ScienceSea program, all of the parents and all of the kids from that one joined in on this Facebook page. And every session we've run since, we've had these parents and kids join this page. And this page, again, going back to Facebook, has become sort of the source of where we do all of our scheduling, all of our trip announcements, all of our field trip announcements. Parents will throw out questions about homeschooling in general, even on that page, and all the other parents jump on and help each other. And it's just been a really, really cool way to connect with everybody and keep everybody connected. So this isn't a one and done thing. Get them, like how sort of like Beth was saying at the beginning, get them in the water, get them certified, and get them out. They keep coming back and they're staying connected, and the community just keeps growing. And that's the biggest thing that I really want to keep doing is growing this community as big as we can, honestly, because it's extremely beneficial for everybody involved, not just the business, not just the kids, not just the parents. Everybody benefits.
Sure. Absolutely. Bethany, any final thoughts?
Oh, come join us.
Yes.
It's a month class, but it's awesome. And, we really have a fun time. And our goal here, like she was saying, is to just keep expanding. We want to expand our junior leadership program. We would love to see a pipeline where they start at 12 and they stay with us through to 18 and they do their IDC. Like, we would love to have that happen. Auben is kind of our test
Guinea
pilot
pig.
for that. She's the first one going through for Emerald Coast Scuba to do the junior
Dive Master.
DMCs. And so it's really cool to watch the whole process, but we hope to have it streamlined so that we start the kids at ScienceSea at 12 and then they just keep going with
Continue.
us.
Keep going, keep growing.
Yeah.
Keep going, keep growing. Absolutely. Well, we'll leave the final thought to Auben, the most important person in the room today. Auben, what are your final thoughts?
That was perfect. Me too. It's all our final thought.
It's all good. I thought she gave me the hang loose, but okay. It's all good.
We don't
You're
There you
Scuba.
go.
We can
We'll
get that.
all do it okay. Yay.
I did have an interview the other day where the instructor, the interviewer gave me the, yep, we're all good, thanks. Okay, I'm not sure what to do with that one, but okay. I usually use my words when we're above water. But Auben, what are your final thoughts on the ScienceSea program?
It's wonderful. I love that all of these kids have had the opportunity to do this, and I wish more kids who are interested in this have the opportunity to come and do it and make those lifelong connections and continue growing and furthering their education. Like they've been talking about, these students will come back and further their courses and come back and take more gear and grow and join this community. So
Awesome. Ladies, thank you so much. Well, there you have it. My name is Benjamin. I'm with Teach Me to Dive, and this is exactly what we look for. We look for fantastic young ladies like this. They're forging a new path in the dive industry, educating the future leaders of our community, creating gender parity, which is huge. It's huge. I can't tell you how many times my wife and I have been on a tech boat when my beautiful little wife of 5'5" and 135 pounds, slinging twins, and she's the only girl on the boat.
That's awesome.
Nothing makes me prouder. She's like, I got this. And I'm looking around. That's not
You got a good one.
you can all your fun. So I love it. So this is exactly what our social following is about, is finding people who are blazing that new path and showing us the light of where we should be going and how we should
That's
be thinking.
definitely our goal.
So again, I'm really thankful for having the opportunity for you, Bethany, for you, Julia, and you, for you, Auben, to go through and help me understand and see a new light and new dynamic with this. Now, if you guys like these kind of interviews, I encourage you, hit that like button and hit that smash bell, because we have lots of cool interviews like this coming up. We've got a bunch of secret interviews of amazing women in diving coming up. July, Women Dive Month. If you're a woman, you should be diving in July, apparently. I will be diving in July as well, and I've been invited to several dive-alongs as women dive events. So, but we're going to have some of the most amazing women in diving you've ever even dreamed of having. We've got a COO of a major dive organization coming up. I'm just going to leave it right there. You'll be able to figure that out pretty darn quickly. We have a major cave diving woman, writer, author, biologist, ecologist. Her resume just goes, it is longer than, I don't know what. I'm not one of those good analogy guys, but it's amazing. So we've got her coming up as well. We have a woman who owned 3 dive shops in Belgium, and now she lives on a sailboat and sails around the world teaching diving. And we also have a National Geographic and a international award-winning photographer who's a woman as well, with amazing advice. So all that's coming up in July. You got to stay tuned and make sure you subscribe to Teach Me to Dive and keep up with the community. And if you can find a way with ScienceSea, make sure to support these women. They've got a really amazing message and amazing thing that they're doing out there. If you're a dive shop, call them up. They have a great program, and I'm sure that these young ladies would more than be happy to tell you what they're doing, help you go through the process, help you create your program as well. And maybe, I'm just going to throw this out there, a little free throw for you, that there's probably going to be a curriculum created at some point in time. You could be a part of the official ScienceSea program. We'll just hope. I think there's a huge opportunity for these young ladies out there. They've created something brilliant, and it's. I have learned more in the last hour of this interview that I've learned in the last week. So I'm extremely thankful for that. It's been amazing. Opened my eyes to a lot of different things. Ladies, thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin.